Hello there, individuals. It's Metro, and today we're going to be taking a look at a serialized viewpoint of soloing dungeons. I talked about this in the previous video, but I decided to just end that series. So before we even start talking about this video, I want to talk a little bit about that. A few people, over the past as well, more so, people are confused why the title of the video was as such, but I was talking almost very seldomly about actual DPS specs, and then in this previous video, literally not at all. And it's because when I started that series, I wanted those videos to kind of serve as a DPS comparison. So like, you could see in the description I was putting like assassination, rogue, marksmanship, hunter. So you'd be able to browse through them and look at what specs were in what dungeons, and you'd be able to see how they were compared to the other specs, or like how much AoE they were able to do compared to what you were able to do. But now, like, gear is just too relevant. It's too important now. This worked much better on the beta, really. I probably should have stopped once the game actually came out. Or more so, I probably should have stopped once Mythic Plus came out, because at that point, gear just started to get a bit exponential. So the point we're at now, I'm showing you a video of people that are 880 doing content that drops 865. You know what I mean? You can't learn much from that, especially if you're looking to play this the way it's supposed to be played. Like you're fresh, you're new, you're looking for things, you're looking for answers. You're not going to find them in that series. So I don't have anything to talk about. Nothing happens in the dungeon that's like wholly new or like relevant to any new player that they should be aware of. I've considered making videos on like weird skips or things we do, but there just aren't enough of them. Like they keep nerfing the fucking. I go to make a video on them and then they get nerfed. So I don't think Blizzard's ever going to allow that type of gameplay anymore. And since the classes are just, ever evolving every week because of gear progression, that series has pretty much just got to end. I may continue it if there is a video where something actually is relevant to talk about damage-wise. But for now, it's kind of just turned into this rant series. And I don't want that. It's confusing people, obviously. So that's the end of that. So now what we are going to do is I'm going to do solo dungeons. I'm going to start with all heroics. We're going to be all 8 heroics. And then we'll work on the Mythic, and eventually maybe try to beat Karazhan. We'll see how much of Karazhan we could do alone, and maybe even Mythic Plus. Like, imagine being able to complete a Mythic +2 alone. That would be fucking awesome, honestly. And the coolest part about doing this on Heroic is I actually have a chance of getting gear. Like, imagine if I got a fucking 890 Titan Forge piece off this boss. You know what I mean? But I'm also getting artifact power, and it's fun. It's actually really fun. I really like doing this. So this is Heroic Mauve Souls. So the purpose of the video is not necessarily going to be to talk about soloing for 25 minutes, all right? I'm going to just like supplant the whole rant bit from the previous series and put that right into here. So I'm going to talk about difficulty of the dungeon and soloing in general. As you see, it's 25 minutes and I sped everything up twice. So this took me almost an hour to complete, and I cannot kill the final boss. I'll explain to you why when we get there. But this was actually a lot harder than I expected it to be. Well, there was 2 parts that were a lot harder than I expected them to be. The first half was not. It's a very easy beginning as a solo player. But yeah, anyway, I'm 866, I think, for this. So just in case anybody else is trying it, you can probably do it even lower. I did this on the beta, like I said, doing normals at 820 something. So yeah, I mean, the game is just trivial when you're a fucking blood DK. I heal myself more than actual healers, so the only thing I'm lacking is damage. And boy, am I fucking lacking it. These fights are like over 10 minutes, some of them. So yeah, that's going to be an issue. But anyway, we'll talk about difficult parts of solo as we go. But for now, I want to start on one of the rant topics that we're going to discuss this week. And it is this... I'm going to say it, and I know I'm going to fucking trigger people already. So here we go. Take a deep breath before you listen to me. Take a deep breath. All right. We're going to talk about the confusion on when, like 4 years ago, J. Allen Brack told somebody, asked him a question about classic servers, and he said, "You think you do, but you don't." Okay. And this like mantra has ascended in such a way that people are like using this as a battle cry now for this whole legacy verse live. And we're not going to talk about the verse part. All right. But we're just going to explain why the mantra of "you think you do, but you don't" is actually really hypocritical for people to be using as like a battle cry for "we want classic." All right. So there's not any like challenging parts of this dungeon coming up for a little bit. This is all just very basic. Early on I pulled like multiple packs here, but these mobs heal. So that's the only thing you need to be aware of. Don't pull more than like these two because you need to break one really severely. So like I'm just letting the right one heal. I'm not even touching him because I can't interrupt both, right? And that's actually going to be a theme in this dungeon. It's very difficult to interrupt everything in here, and that's why I struggle later. But for now, we'll talk about this. So the you think you do, but you don't thing. It sounds really fucking ignorant, doesn't it? Like when you hear it, I understand why people react the way they do. Because it really does sound fucking ignorant. It sounds like this guy is a fucking shill, like a moron who doesn't understand anything except what he's been told. But what he's actually trying to say there, okay? Like just think about this for a second. Why he's saying it. Like think about where it came from in his head. Why he's saying it is because as a developer of a video game, right, basically as a form of art, like they've created a form of interactive art that is always being iterated on. All right, they've made, at the time, I think that was probably at the end of Kata that he made that, or maybe it was the end of Mop. But either way, yeah, there was at least 4 expansions out. Like they were well into like the WoW 2.0 phase where it was, Kata and onward, where the game had just changed so much since Classic. And they made these changes for reasons that they thought were very good ideas. Like they changed the whole world in Classic, and I think they did it for a good reason. I think it was because, leveling was really odd. The continuity timelines didn't make sense. Gear was actually like dropping now that was relevant. Like leveling was a much smoother process now. But people look back at that and say that was a bad decision. But they don't think that, you know what I mean? They, of course, when you're a hive mind of development, you think the things you make where you discuss for hours, probably hundreds of hours worth of discussion go into these things. And you make them because it's a consensus among the people who made them, not the people who played them, by the way, the people who made them, that it was the right choice. So when somebody says it was the wrong choice, they think you just don't see it from the perspective that we like this hive mind collected upon, like this small sample size, 50 plus people maybe or less collected upon, So he is saying that, he's making that statement, assuming that. He's thinking, we have changed things in the game that you forgot about. And if you went back, you'd remember them. So it's important to consider that because everybody, like, so Nostalrius coming out again, whatever. People are excited for that, and I'm not going to lie to you guys, I am as well. I'm going to be playing Nostalrius a lot, and I'm going to be playing it as a realist, okay? I understand how flawed Classic is, frankly, and I don't think a lot of people do. And that really is representative by this. And the amount of times I see people say, you think you do, but you don't. Like, so the reason I'm bringing this up is because the stress test for Nostalrius was last weekend, and everybody in their fucking brother is showing like 250 people running around in Elwyn Forest and saying, you think you do, but you don't. Like, if the 8,000 people that are on that stress test is enough for Blizzard to be substantiatedly wrong, you know what I mean? It's like, first of all, guys, a whole different topic for another day. 300,000 people signed that petition. That's not even as many people as would come back if they released a brand new expansion today. Like, if they just scrapped the rest of fucking Legion and released a new expansion, more than 300,000 people would come back and buy it. So that is not, you don't get to do that, all right? That's way too small of a number. I'm not saying it's 0 because I would love Legacy and I would love to play Classic TBC and maybe Wrath. I don't understand why everybody's on Wrath, but that's another day. But anyway, so the you think you do but you don't thing is referencing things that you don't remember were bad. So we're talking about especially quality of life, right? The fact that, like, everybody on Nostalrius is going to use Questy. Doesn't that tell you something about the game? You know what I mean? That this many people are like, Questy's mandatory because quests don't appear on your fucking minimap in Classic, guys. A lot of people don't remember this, especially if you played only TBC onward. You never understood how bad the questing system was in Classic. A lot of people also don't understand that grinding 1 to 30 is actually faster than questing. And 30 to 40 is probably the same speed. I grind exclusive. I do probably less than 5 quests, 1 to 40. And I get about 7 days played, usually less, on the warrior I did on Nost. Now, don't forget, Nost has high rate respawns when the zones are filled, so I really exploited that. I exploited the fuck out of that, honestly. And I got 4 days played on a warrior, 1 to 60, okay? And that was because I grinded 1 to 40. I don't think I did a single quest, actually. I might have done a quest or two for warrior stuff, like the whirlwind stuff. But otherwise, I did not do that. And that's not fucking good. You know what I mean? That's not a good thing. You think you do, but you don't. That's not a good thing, okay? People think that's a good thing, but it's not. Nobody wants to do that. If you're one of the people who like to do that, more power to you, because I actually enjoy grinding. But fuck, man, I'm not going to be able to convince my friends who play this game that they should grind for fucking 4 days straight. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen. That's not a mass appeal. Like, nobody's going to buy a game that the fastest way to level to 60 is by grinding, okay? So that's a great example where J. Allen Brack is fucking right. That is one of the main things. The questing system is absolutely terrible in Classic. So, like, those are things that people don't remember. Here's another, just cut away from that. Here's another interesting pack here. I can't interrupt both of these, and they're actually fucking hitting me, so they're hitting me hard, but I can't interrupt both of these. It's actually pretty tough here. It's just pain in the ass, really, more than tough. But anyway, so that's like one major thing. Like, you have to consider these types of things, like in a vacuum, are very bad for the game. Like, you know, you could only mail one item, or like the auction house basically had no functionality. You had to, you know, all the things that have come to the auction house have been player developed and added in the game overall. You couldn't even see a culmination of your stats. Like, you couldn't see how much crit, you couldn't see how much crit your character had in Classic. You know, shit like that. That's really fucking bad. Like, looking back at stuff like that, it's not acceptable for a video game. If they re-released the same game without anybody knowing what it is, like if somehow we could wipe the minds of all the hosts, like in Westworld, if we were just all reset and we played the exact same game as Classic at 2016, it would flop. I hate to tell you that, but it would fucking flop, because that's not what the game is supposed to be right now. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be a faster paced, more engagement, higher overturn or higher turnover, but you know, more engagement in general. The content is a bit easier to get into, but harder to master. That's the big difference with Classic. It was very hard to get into, but easy to master. There's almost no mechanics. Like, you know, the things they have made change-wise are good for the game, in their eyes at least, all right? I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking not even for me. I'm just speaking from their perspective. They don't make these changes randomly. They don't think, yeah, let's massively redesign Warlock. We think it's a bad idea, but we're going to fucking do it anyway. You know what I mean? They think it's the right idea. So no matter how much people complain, it doesn't really matter. They have not just made these decisions on a whim, and nor has he made that statement on a whim. I'm sure that the development team has talked, especially before this development of like Classic and all this stuff came out. I'm sure they talked about this a lot. I'm sure they think about it all the time, like, oh, how funny would it be to go back to Classic? And they look at it from the development perspective. They don't look at it from a player perspective. And they think, man, how much time we spent making the game what it is now. Imagine going back to when the game wasn't what it is now. How shitty it would be. That's all they could think of, because the amount of effort, you know what I mean? It's like, that's like, you know, you draw something on canvas, like you're an artist, you're a painter. You make this giant mural, this great, like, intricate mural, which you think is great. You're so satisfied with it. But people, all they can say to you is, oh, I liked it much better when it was just a bus, you know, a bus with 4 wheels, instead of like this giant, like, landscape. You know what I mean? It's like, no, it was objectively worse. There was less involved in it, and we've added a lot since. So you shouldn't want to go back to that. But the reason people actually do want to go back is not for, they don't want the bad shit. They don't remember the bad shit mostly. They want the class design. They want the slower pace, like gameplay wise, like the slower global. You know, the gear is more difficult to obtain. It's less of an impact. You know, in Legion, you could obtain an 890 gear from the Heroic, like I talked about earlier, and that would be such a massive impact for a fresh character. That kind of stuff doesn't exist in Classic. You know, it's just a much slower gameplay. It's really built like a single-player game. And over the years, they had to iterate on that to make it a more multiplayer expanse. Like, just class balance alone, guys. That is probably the biggest thing to say about this whole you think you do, but you don't. I don't want to fucking play that game when the classes are that imbalanced, guys, okay? I love Paladin, first of all, my main fucking spec, but I don't want to play Alliance. I don't want to fucking play Alliance. I want to play Horde, but I can't, because if I'm going to play a Paladin, I have to be fucking Alliance. That's not fun. That's stupid, and I much prefer TBC and Onward, so guess what? I don't. You know what I mean? I think I do, but I don't, because I don't want to play fucking Classic where I have to play Paladin, but it's the only fucking option, you know? And then furthermore, like design itself, Ret was basically not a spec. It might as well not even existed in PvE. It was terrible. So if I wanted to play Ret, I pretty much wouldn't be able to. And Prot was really a bastardization of what it could have been. Just seeing it in TBC with spell power gear and all this, like it actually worked in TBC, and it was a lot of fun, and I really enjoy it. In fact, I think Prot in TBC is the purest form of Paladin tanking. I do enjoy Paladin tanking now, from Kata onwards as well, but I really think it was the best it ever was in TBC. And Classic, it's like I'm playing like some half-wits version of it, you know? It's like I don't have a fucking taunt. I don't have any gear that helps me do my job, and I have no I basically don't have anything. You know what I mean? All I have is Consecrate and Red Aura. I'm banking on those two things to be enough. So here things are going to get a little bit more difficult. Basically, that boss alone actually was pretty tough, mostly because I just don't have damage. Like once he gets lower, he starts doing more damage, and it just gets harder to fill out, harder to finish really. And I should have used my second potion towards the end there instead. But regardless, I don't have a flask gun or anything like that, and I don't know, I'm just not really picking up DK damage very well. I must be missing something, but I'm doing alright on AoE, well, very well actually on AoE, but still just, it feels like I can do more damage on every other tank. Even my undergeared Demon Hunter, about 15 item levels lower, does more single target than my DK, so maybe I'm missing something. But anyway, this next pack is actually really tough here. There's 2 healers, and actually this isn't the one I struggle with the most, but it is difficult to interrupt both. I have to rely on a stun and then quickly bursting one down. I could death grip them away to interrupt the cast, but it doesn't actually stop them permanently. So luckily I get the fear there, and that does break the cast. But yeah, that whirlpool there, it's not going to be broken. I have to grip them away. And I barely kill that mob. Now the next pack here, you're going to see me cut because I actually wiped this pack. I simply couldn't kill it. I could not stop both the 2 heals that the one caster does and the fear. So basically every time I would either get, I could only get 2. I would grip and interrupt one, or stun and interrupt one, and then the other one, a third one, would get off if it cast. So basically I had to just roll the dice until it didn't line up that all 3 happened within 8 seconds. Because if they did, one was getting off, and it was either going to fully heal one of the targets basically, or I was going to get feared, and then another one might get off. So that's happened to me multiple times. I spent like about 15 minutes on this next pull, and it's basically because I just kept getting feared, and then they would heal. It would heal the full, you know? So maybe I don't cut it. I don't know. Either way, I spent a lot of time on this fucking pack. It was a pain in the ass. Maybe I leave it in. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, we're almost at the end here, but either way, so that's kind of all I have to say on the whole. I would just really ask people who, like, let me like one more time reiterate this. I want to play older versions of World of Warcraft, not because they're better, because they're also fun. Okay, so people saying they're better, you guys really aren't right. All right, I don't know what to tell you. It's just your opinion. The game has so many tech and quality of life improvements over the years. If all of those things were in the old game, then I would agree with you. You know, the combat pacing and gameplay was very engaging in Classic. The world felt alive. So they healed the full there? Yeah, I think so. Maybe I should have cut this part out, I think. But anyway, I wanted to show it, I guess. I edited this like 2 days ago, and now I'm just getting to record the audio. But anyway, it's a fucking pain in the ass. As you see, it's almost impossible. Yeah, there you go. So now I cut it because they just healed the full like 6 times. So now I just got to burst one down and get lucky here. But anyway, like I said, I would definitely play TBC and Classic realms if they were fully supported very heavily. Classic would be my preference because I just like the slower pace, and like, yeah, like a few people have brought up about how like expansions kind of ruin the world, and I can't help but agree, you know. But I don't think there's any other option besides expansions. It's not like they could just keep adding content to Classic WoW and it'd be enough for 12 years. So unfortunately, there's not many options. That's just what has to have happened. Like, they're not going to just keep adding expansion packs to Skyrim. You're not going to play Skyrim for the next 12 years. They're going to have to create a new Elder Scrolls at some point. You know what I mean? You can't just keep re-releasing the same shit. So I think that's very true about WoW as well. And even though, you know, the model for Classic seems like it could last a long time, it's just never going to. It's never going to last 12 years. You're not going to. I played my Paladin. I'm pushing 2 years played on my Paladin now. I was at 1 year played before WoD came out, so I'm probably. I haven't checked in a long time. I should check, but I'm probably close to 2 years played now. Maybe not. Maybe only like a year and a half. But either way, you're not going to get me to play my fucking Paladin for 2 years on Classic. It's just not going to happen. I mean, not even 2 years real time. I probably wouldn't be able to raid on Classic for 2 straight years. Like, there's just not going to be anything to do eventually. It's going to be much worse than WoD. Like, everybody says, oh, in WoD especially, I only logged on to raid. You know what I mean? Well, yeah, it's going to be a lot worse than Classic, guys. I hate to tell you that. There's literally nothing to do once you're geared and you know, you've maybe PvP a bit. There's nothing else to do. There's no competitive dungeons. There's no reason to do the dungeons that are even in the game. You can just level a new character and start from scratch. And I think that is part of the big mentality here with Classic. People are reaching for something to do that does not exist. Leveling is not part of the game. It's part of your experience, but they do not develop the game around people leveling multiple times. And this whole like, oh, let's make a fresh server. Everybody wants to level again. It's like, yeah, you casuals want to level again, but serious players want to actually raid and get somewhere on their character not reset every few months. So I think that's important, and I would really, I know nobody who's actually making these videos is listening to this, but if for some reason even one person hears this, here's my plea. Please stop saying this. Please stop this you think you do but you don't as like a rallying cry, guys. You don't understand why it was said, and you clearly are ignorant to the fact, like you think he's being ignorant, but you're being ignorant by thinking he's ignorant, because he's not. He's not. Sorry about that. He's not fucking ignorant. He is telling the truth. You do think you do, but he thinks you don't, okay? And it's because of all the shit that has changed in the game. And he's fucking right, man. There are so many things that you should be happy about in Blizzard's mindset. But what you're really happy about is the actual gameplay, the class design, the slower feel, the way the world felt alive, the way the world felt important for players. You know, it was the only place there was to be. New expansions have ruined that. There's a lot of things to be happy about in Classic. He's not saying those things are bad. From his perspective, he's saying that the quality of life shit, the tech, all the new stuff that they've added over the years, that is what the focus should be. And he's entirely fucking right about that. You should not want to go back to a 12-year-old game. You should want that 12-year-old game to be updated to actually be good. And if it was, like if they added cross-realm tech and Battle.net, well, maybe not the cross-realm stuff, because I understand why people think that kind of ruined things. But regardless, there's a lot of holes in Classic. And if they patch them, even, you know, just the quest stuff, like even if they made leveling real, where you didn't have to grind for 30 levels and it was faster than actually running around and doing quests, these things could be really impactful for a game that like, it's like basically clay, and you can mold it however you want in Classic. You can play the game multiple ways. But anyway, that's all I got for that. Let's talk about this boss here and why I can't kill it. As you see here, I simply cannot kill the tentacles. The destructive tentacles are going to just keep coming out, and I'm not doing nearly enough damage to kill this. Like, why is this taking so long? I don't understand. I feel like this is taking way too long to kill these small-ass tentacles. And eventually, these destructive tentacles just kill me, so I couldn't. Now there's 3 out, and they're all slapping me like, you know, I don't know. I don't know what to do about this. I don't think it's possible. I tried for about five pulls, and I just couldn't. I could kill 2, but then at that time, like 3 destructive tentacles were just slaughtering me. And it seems like eventually they start really hitting me hard. Like right now, I'm barely taking damage, but in a little bit here, I just start getting slaughtered by them. I think it's like after I killed this one, I just start getting. So now there's 4 out or something. I'm not sure, but it's not even, yeah, it's not that much damage yet, but eventually I just can't kill it. I don't know. Like, I just die. I couldn't survive if I wanted to. But right now I'm not even really taking damage. Maybe some of them aren't hitting me. Maybe I'm too far out of range, but when I come back to, yeah, look at this. Look at how much damage I'm taking now. Holy fuck, I'm getting slaughtered now, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's pretty much undoable. I would need a lot more damage. I would basically need to burst. So like I even kind of, it looks like I move out of their range there, but I don't know. So I would need to burst the 2 down, like as, you know, like when you do the fight, you kill the destructive tentacle, but the other 2 are in range. So a lot of times you're cleaving them down and they're kind of dying like by proxy. but I can't do that alone. I wouldn't be able to cleave all 3 down. It's not possible. They wouldn't die. So I would need to really burst this one down in like 4 or 5 seconds. And then I might be able to survive the next 3. But I don't think it's possible. So I'm going to give up on this one for now. We cleared almost a whole dungeon, just not the last boss. We're going to move on to another dungeon next and another topic to talk about. So once again, hopefully you guys remember what I said about the previous series. I apologize. And this is what the series is going to be from now on. We'll have a good 20-minute video, maybe longer sometimes, to kind of just sit here and talk about topics that I think are fun to talk about and would incite a discussion, but also show you guys some soloing, which, you know, can be competitive content. Like, it's not easy, honestly. Like, I don't know, maybe it is easy if you're a Blood DK. I guess the fact that I'm able to do this without really putting too much preparation into it says something, but it's a fucking heroic dungeon, you know what I mean? It's kind of fun. It's a cool idea to do. I don't think there's really been a lot of situations where a heroic dungeon could be relevant as well. In the past, like, you know, I could actually get a fucking upgrade from this. You never know, man. It would be, I would love it. Think about how cool the series would be if I actually get a fucking upgrade from this, or even a legendary. Could you fucking imagine? Oh my God, if I got a fucking legendary, unbelievable. It'd be so crazy. But anyway, that's it. Have a great holiday weekend here, guys, and we'll see you guys in the next video.